Hello friends, we are here today in the last chapter of 1 Thessalonians. That's 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Now, in this chapter, we're dealing again with eschatology, which is great. So he is still kind of hanging over from what he was talking about the last chapter. You know, people were very much concerned about what happens to the people who have already died. Like, in the day of the Lord, as Jesus called it, what is going to happen to these people? And he answered in the last chapter that the people who have died already, when Jesus comes back, they are going to be raised from the dead. Someday we will rise again, like Jesus rose from the dead. So he's saying now concerning the day, like when it's going to happen, he's saying you guys already know this. Now why is he saying like this is obvious? It's because these people have heard of the teachings of Jesus. They've heard from Timothy, they've heard from Paul. What Jesus was saying on the Mount of Olives before he was arrested. And what he was saying, and all the books say this, is that it will come like a thief in the night. The day of the Lord, like when it happens, when Christ returns, it will happen when nobody expects it. And that's what Paul is saying here. He's saying, you know, there will be peace and everybody thinks that everything's fine, and then the Lord's going to come back. So he's highlighting exactly what they already know and what we should already know if we've read the Gospels, and that is that Jesus says that it will come without any notice. And here it says it will come like labor pains. You know, I don't know if you've ever had labor pains, but you know, you get these pains, these contractions, and they come kind of out of nowhere. And you know, they increase in intensity, but what he's talking about is the immediacy. Now, it's interesting too that both Paul and Jesus talk about labor pains. And it's interesting, well, like why is he talking about labor pains? And what he's addressing is this idea that, you know, when you have labor pains, it's painful and it's pretty awful. But at the end of it, you have a baby. And babies are great. I have a baby right now, and I love having a baby. And there's nothing more joyous in the world than having a baby. Now, the baby that Jesus is talking about, or the baby that Paul is talking about here, is the baby of having a world that's cleansed of all the evil. And it will be hard for those that are still around, and for those that are being, you know, cleansed away. But when it's all over, it's going to be really great. And so, but you know, there's different viewpoints on this, and I might change my views someday. However, right now the way I read it is I am in the camp, and there's different camps. I am in the camp of someone who is considered a pre-trib rapture person. Now, I grew up believing that, and then in my rebellious years, when I was in my 20s, you know, some people rebel in different ways, and I rebelled by becoming a post-tribulation rapture person in my 20s. It was a dark time, but as I read the Bible more and more, I see the pre-tribulation rapture point of view, and it may change again. You know, if you believe something else, you know, don't stop watching me. I'm not extremely dogmatic about this, but that's the way that I see it, because everywhere says that it will happen like a thief in the night. Now, Paul goes on to describe this idea that since we know that the day of the Lord is coming, that Jesus is coming back, we need to be sober-minded. And by saying sober-minded, he's not saying you don't need to be drunk, though that may be part of it. He's just saying be aware, have all of your senses at its top performance, so that when you live your life in a way that makes it so that you're remembering the fact that Jesus is going to come back someday. You know, you need to live out your life in remembrance that this life is not all there is. So he's saying, you know, there's the people of the night that are sleeping. They're not sober. Now he's kind of got two different metaphors here, but I think it's interesting the way that he makes these metaphors. He's talking about people that are dead in the Lord. And then there's people, now when he says dead in the Lord, he's saying that they're asleep. And then he's saying that there's these people that are alive and they are asleep, meaning that they're alive, but they're kind of dead to the Lord in the sense that they don't believe in him. You know, they have no relationship, so they don't have any future. And he's saying we're people of the light. We need to live in the light. We need to be sober-minded. We need to not be like the living dead. You know, the ones that are walking around with their eyes closed to the fact that this all belongs to God, and God made it for a purpose, and that this purpose, you know, this God is calling you to himself. So it's interesting that there's the dead but alive to Christ, and then there's the alive but dead to Christ. And here is the end of the letter. And so Paul is basically just saying really great things. You know, he's saying them in rapid fire and all at once. And I think that a couple of them, I'll just highlight a couple of them. One, and this is the one that really gripped me. He says, admonish the idol. Not the idol as in like idolatry. The idol as in like the people that aren't doing anything. The people are just walking around. He's saying, admonish these people. Let them know that if we are living this life, we need to live it with purpose, knowing that others can be saved and they can know the Lord. So he's saying, admonish the idol. And he's also talking about people that aren't just, you know, pulling their weight, that they're not doing their job well, that they're not living life well. He's saying, admonish the idols. Not the idols, but the idol. And he says, there was another, he says, don't repay evil for evil. And this is something that I have to be reminded of over and over again. Because there's a sense that if someone does something evil to you, you are thinking, you know, I need to do that back to them because that would be justice. But, you know, other places in the Bible it says vengeance belongs to the Lord. You know, you don't repay evil for evil. God will let his righteousness repay that evil. But we are supposed to forgive in the same way that Jesus forgave. The last thing I want to highlight, and it's kind of two, maybe three things, but I feel like they go together, is he says, don't quench the Spirit. You know, if the Holy Spirit is doing things in your life, let that happen. You know, let the Holy Spirit work in your life. Listen to the Holy Spirit. And that's something that I need to remember. You know, the Holy Spirit is here. He's with me right now. He's with you right now if you believe. And it's important to remember we don't quench that spirit. Don't reject prophecies or the prophets. And he says, but make sure that you test everything. And I think this is important, you know. It's important for us to remember that God can speak to us through other people. But not everything everybody says is from the Lord. And there's different ways that we need to test it. You know, we need to test by the scriptures. You know, if anybody's telling us to do something that goes against the scriptures, that person is just wrong. So you need to test it. So the testing, I think, is the most important part, because, you know, it's people not testing the prophets, which is the reason that we have things like Mormonism and Jehovah's Witness and even Islam. You know, these are people that have had communication from what they would say are angels, but it's really just people trying to take us away from true salvation. So that is 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. Have a great day. Bye.